let's continue with this thought, your thoughts about awareness, about God's presence. You know, one of the things I thought of when you brought up bread, of course I thought of communion.
Yeah.
And I've often thought that it was pure genius of the Lord to choose bread and wine as substances to be remembered by and to infuse with his presence, because he had to know people are going to be eating bread and drinking wine forever.
Yeah.
Isn't that something?
Yeah. Ordinary stuff.
Ordinary stuff.
But so beautiful. There's just nothing more beautiful than a loaf of bread. And nothing more beautiful than wine and the way the light shines through it.
Now, Barbara, your amazing antennae for sensibility and awareness, doesn't that require, though, a particular kind of religious sensibility, a receptivity, an openness to see what you see?
Well, you know, I know people who don't believe in God at all and who have just a thunderous sense of something maybe they wouldn't call holiness when they confront nature or a new baby or an animal. And they wouldn't say that was really about God at all. To me it is. To me the creation just speaks the Creator. And this isn't really about intelligent design either. It's more about the life having meaning and the world having meaning and the world being beautiful.
And how is it beautiful in a different way now that you're wearing a pacemaker, now that you're suffering from a cardiac disease?
Well, none of us are getting out of here alive.
And life is not a dress rehearsal. We know that.
Nobody will get out of here alive.
That's it.
Amen to that.
And I guess maybe my life might be shorter than I would like, although it's going to be as long as I can make it. Having my pacemaker has made me much more careful about my health and about exercising and about eating. And I take so many pills you don't want to know. Oh, it's ridiculous.
Yes.
But so I don't really know. But then again, none of us know that we're not going to walk out of here today and get hit by a truck. And so knowing that you don't know how long you have just makes you think, however long I have, today is today, and I'm never going to have it again.
And I'm going to make it count. I'm absolutely going to make it count. Building on something that the question that Lydia just asked you, I get the feeling that it isn't so much a sense of religious awareness that's required to have this sort of ultra reality. Isn't it kind of a devotion to love? Isn't it sort of a devotion to seeing God's love expressed through the minutiae of life, whether it's a fall season, or it's a loaf of bread, or it's a cat, or it's a child's smile? I mean, just to really look at life, expecting there to be love shining back at you from it.
Yeah. I mean, I guess if we say we look in the Bible and that God has created things and didn't have to, because he was fine, just the way things were. And then when God created things, he looks at the person he's created and he says, oh, it's not good for him to be alone. Let's have more. It seems to me that God made everything there is out of love. And if love really is energy, and in a way it is, I mean, he creates out of matter and energy. Well, then everything is sort of alive, even like the earth and rocks.
Now the earth and rocks are in the beautiful garden that you love and tend to. The geranium.
Rocks are in there. A year and a half ago, a guy came with a dump truck and he dumped probably a whole pallet of rocks, which must have weighed a ton, in our driveway. And they sat there for 2 years while we talked about building a wall with them. We just started building a garden wall with it, and it is so much fun. The rocks are so ancient.
And the inspiration your garden must be for your online website, Geranium Farm. I love that.
Yeah, everybody wants to know if the Geranium Farm, which is where I live, and is also my online ministry, is it really a farm? And they think about cows and chickens and stuff, and you know, no, it's just our house.
But the garden.
My garden.
Now, Barbara, there is a pathos in your eyes and in your voice when you speak about the garden. And it's a different kind of pathos than when I last saw you right after 9/11, and you were in the trenches working with St. Clement's Church in the hood, as you say. But what is that pathos now when you think about garden?
You know, it's life. Putting your hands in the dirt and putting seeds in. I just love to plant seeds, even more than planting plants.
Because you're getting to see something
and
come up from a little
from
tiny,
the beginning, and they're fed by just what's there, the earth and the old scraps of last year's leaves and last year's breakfast that have become compost and nourishing the soil and the sun and the water, and it has, this little seed has everything in it to be what it needs to be. And that little tiny, some of the seeds, lavender seeds, I love lavender, I have lots of lavender on the farm. Lavender seeds are so small, you can't pick one up, they're so tiny. They contain every little thing that they need to become a lavender plant that smells so glorious. I just can't stand it. I just, more and more, I hardly ever want to be anywhere else but in the garden. I travel so much. In the summertime, I try not to travel at all, so I can stay home.
And this is a huge transition for Barbara. I mean, from being a priest at St. Clement's in New York City.
I'm wondering now, I mean, we talk about gardens, and we can talk about bacon bread as points of intersection for people with the divine, but there are folks ain't got no garden, okay?
And they're never going to bake a loaf of bread.
And never going to bake a loaf of bread. And I wonder, where can we send them for a shortcut into this kind of intimacy? I mean, my grandmother was a domestic most of her life, and which meant she cleaned and she washed and she took care of babies, and I know for a fact that she found the divine in the chore, in the task, in I bet you my grandmother could find God in a dirty diaper, okay? Because she was that attuned to his invitation to be an arbiter of love, no matter what your activity is.
If you want to see God, you will see God everywhere.
Yeah.
It's, in a way, I'm thinking it may be a decision, really. What do you want to see? Nothing? Or do you want to see the world infused with holiness? In the city, I remember one time we had a lunch program, and it handed out a bag lunch to 150 people. And they would line up on the steps of St. Paul's Chapel, and there were 150 lunches, but more than 150 people would come. So, you know, when the lunches were gone, that was bad for 160 and 165.
Right.
So we'd hand them out. And one time, we got to 150, and he got his lunch, and he turned to 151, and he gave him half. And he had nothing. He's standing in front of a church for an hour in the cold to get a bag with a sandwich in it. And so I think you sure don't need a garden to see God, because that was just a godly moment.
Right.
And I don't know what the religious persuasion of those two guys were, or if they even had one, and they had certainly been beaten down by life. And it was not a beautiful setting. We were in the noise and the dirt, but sometimes I think that it's just in the people you also see.
And of course, we can think figuratively. The garden can be a metaphor for that place of connectedness or intimacy for individuals. Goethe says, you know, despite the distances that we may feel with others, the fact that we have someone in our lives with whom we can think and feel, that makes this life an inhabitable garden.
God set Adam and Eve in a garden.
Yes.
And what you're talking about, Barbara, reminds me of the Vietnamese spiritualist Thich Nhat Hanh, who said, every moment of every day is a precious jewel. And it seems to me that's how you are experiencing every moment of every day.
That's how I want to experience it.
That's how it is.
And the seeds that you plant in your garden. Tell me about the seeds you've planted in the form of your own daughters and granddaughters. We have a minute left.
Oh my goodness. Well.
Yeah, how could you do your grandkids in a minute?
Well, they are something. One of them's going to have a birthday soon, and I don't know what she wants for her birthday, but I think I'm going to get her a light in the shape of a guitar that's made out of neon, because she likes to play the guitar. And the older one is an amazing girl. They're both amazing. I look at them and I see their mother in them. And it's the same kind of feeling I have about the autumn leaves. I look at that and it makes me so happy, but it also makes me a little sad. Time has passed. Life is so short, and I didn't know it was short when I was young, because you don't know.
No, you don't.
And now here they are, young women, and you know, if I live, I'll be a great-grandmother.
Well, you are a wonderful woman and friend to us. Thank you so much, Barbara Crafton.
Great to be here.